Alright, and so we're back here with another uquiz. It's been quite a while, I think. It's taken me a while to kind of figure out how I want to organize my channel exactly. But going forward, I hope I can get these uquizzes a lot more frequent going forward. And I'm starting to script them now, so they should be better quality going forward. Anyways, today's uquiz is, which fairy tale archetype are you? It's by Wamper. I'm guessing that's supposed to be like some variant of vampire. And there's a very pretty illustration in the background of like birds and stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it looks like there's some woman like doing her laundry or something up on that pillar support beam. I don't know what to call it. And there's just like a bunch of birds pouring in. You know, art's always supposed to display tragedy, apparently, so I guess that's fitting in a way. No, it's not. It's not fitting for fairy tale archetypes. Whatever, let's get on with the quiz. That's what we're here for. Question 1 of 10. Pick an item to aid you on your quest. First option is a handwritten letter with a royal seal, a key to any door I might encounter. Now, I can't really comment on how good the letter will be. I mean, given that I don't really know what its contents are going to be, but a royal seal sounds pretty sick. Like, I'm big on animals. Seals particularly are pretty cool. Kind of like big wet dogs, you know, is like the common meme. And it says it's a key to any door I might encounter. So if this seal can like pick locks or whatever, that most likely means it's sentient, or at least has like a higher intelligence. That's like, there's a lot of like philosophical and ethical consequences of that I can probably take advantage of. And I just want to briefly point out, encounter is spelled wrong. It doesn't really matter, but it helps me feel smug about myself. I don't know why. Our second option is a pair of comfortable, durable shoes. It's going to be a long journey. I mean, if this is implying that the other options I don't get shoes, that's a pretty serious drawback, I would think. I don't know what this says about me as a person, but I'm not really like super excited about shoes. It doesn't sound like an option that would like really jump out and speak to me, you know? Our third option is a loaf of bread, the crust still hot, and a block of cheese tied up in a bindle. Once again, if this is the only way to get food, that's kind of important, unless I have like easy access to money somehow. I guess it depends on what my quest is. It doesn't really say. It wouldn't really matter if I'm on a quest to become like, I don't know, an investment banker or something, but that would kind of suck. And also in that case, most of these options wouldn't really be practical. Fourth option is a sword. It's heavy, but I've borne its weight for a long time. You know, you're allowed to like put down the sword. I don't know why this person's just like how would you even like sleep in that without like putting down the sword? This seems wildly unrealistic. Which, I mean, think about it, that should make this option better, right? Unless that's like a hidden secret drawback. I know like normally the good options are supposed to have like drawbacks to make the choice more interesting. Is that what's happening here? Could be. The next option is a trusty cloak, warm, swooshy, and many-pocketed. That's how people like to describe me, warm, swooshy, and many-pocketed. I don't know how useful a cloak is going to be. I guess, I mean, I'm from Canada. Depending on when the quest is or how long, a cloak could be useful, but you know, if you know how to use a sword right, you can get a cloak for free, if you know what I'm saying. Our second last option is a dagger, small and inconspicuous. Useful for intimidating enemies or cleaning my fingernails. How are you cleaning your fingernails with a dagger? Like, that seems a very inconvenient way to like maintain your personal hygiene by just like stabbing yourself underneath your fingernails. That sounds really painful, actually. And the last option is a ring from someone I love. Pewter but polished to a shine. Now, of course, there's the easy joke of like, I couldn't pick this, nobody loves me, whatever, but why pewter? Like, that's such a specific stone, metal, whatever pewter is for a ring. Like, does that have some symbolic meaning or something? It's just like, are you Brock from Pokemon or something? Why pewter? Now, of course, from a practical perspective, the sword is going to be the best, because like I've said, you can kind of get the other items with a sword, but I think you want to pick the option with these quizzes that's like the most emotionally honest, I guess, and that's going to be the seal. I mean, depending on how good the seal is, maybe you couldn't get it with a sword if it's like super rare or something. You might just never have the option to. That's something to consider. Alright, and question 2 is pick a painting. Our first painting here is La Belle Dame sans Merci. I'm not great at pronouncing French. This one is pretty boring looking. It's just like, maybe it's my assumption, but it seems to be like a pretty generic, like romantic scene. It's kind of hard to read the emotion on the people's faces as well, so it's not very exciting to me. The second option, The Young Hamlet. This one is like a very gender non-conforming child riding on some creepy man with some like rabid dogs circling them. This is very disturbing. This child has some sort of like magic staff or something that it's clearly used to enslave this man and use as like a steed, I guess, if you want to use that kind of term. Maybe this dog is like trying to save the man from the child, but he's like not big enough to jump up on his back or anything. The third painting is Iphigenia in Taurus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This one is a woman sad at the beach. And I gotta say, the beach is probably like the worst place to be sad, at least like during the day like this. They're usually, pretty like crowded and lots of like noise and that. And the beach is always like, it's clearly a very sunny day. It's gonna be reflecting in the water. The last thing you want when you're trying to have like a mopey atmosphere is a bunch of like light reflecting in your face from every angle. And when you get like emotionally distraught, you get like almost extra sensitive to those kind of things. It just doesn't seem like a good time to me. The fourth painting here is Salome. It's a woman looking ambivalently at a dying man. Oh, there's someone else like looking at her to continue the chain, I guess. And I empathize with this painting. Overall, I'm quite bad at comforting people. I mean, I guess if they're dying, it doesn't really matter. It's not like they're going to be, like, complaining about it to anyone or anything like that. And, I mean, the person on the left is clearly, like, judging them for not helping the dying person. But the person on the left isn't exactly doing a whole lot to help either, so, what good is their opinion, really? And the last option is the Triumphant David. This is a guy, I assume, coming back from like a hunt or something. Given it's David, it's probably some Bible scene. There's just a bunch of musicians around him. And by a bunch, I guess I mean two. I don't know what to say about this one. This one, I don't know, just like having a person with like a drum or a banjo or whatever that is and like a triangle following you around sounds like a bad time. Like, it might be funny at first for the novelty, but after, a few days or whatever, you'd probably get sick of them. And it doesn't give me a criteria to pick a painting, but usually you want to go, what you empathize with, that kind of thing. And I feel it's closest to this, woman looking at this dude die. I think that's pretty cool. Question 3 is, what is your giving love language, i.e., how do you show people you love them? Our first option is words of affirmation. I guess this is talking to people in a positive way. I'm bad at talking to people like that, being appreciative besides the vague thank you and that kind of stuff. I always end up feeling like I'm talking to a dog or something, and it always ends up feeling condescending whenever I earnestly try, so I don't. Which probably isn't a good solution, but it's the one I do. The second option is quality time. Now, you've got the golden rule, do unto others as they unto you, whatever. You know what I mean. And my idea of quality time is being alone. And so I try to be alone as often as I can, and I try to leave other people alone from me as often as I can. I think that is kind of quality time for everyone involved, me not being present. Our third option is giving gifts. And I generally don't mind getting people gifts as long as, I know what they want. You gotta, tell me clearly, If you make someone, just guess for what to give you and you get disappointed, that's really your fault, I think. Our fourth option is acts of service. This is I guess, doing or making stuff for other people. I am very physically inept, so I don't think that in general is a very good idea. Unless your idea of love is watching me hurt myself and or you on accident, or potentially not. I don't think that's really going to be a good time for anyone involved. And the last option is physical touch. As said, I am very physically inept, and so like any sort of thing like this is never really going to turn into like a Three Stooges kind of act, you know? So, I mean, pretty clearly I gotta go with giving gifts. In a way, I'm kind of giving you a gift, giving you the gift of knowledge and the advice I'm giving you from this video. But I don't love you, so there's that. Question 4 is how much guilt do you experience on a daily basis? First option is I do not have time for guilt, I have dishes to do. And I know I like to consider myself pretty talented. I can kind of like do both at the same time. I can do dishes and have like horrible fits of existential despair. And I have on many an occasion. So, you know, I guess that just makes me better than you. Second option is I genuinely do not believe I have anything to be guilty about, which is true. I have, in fact, never done anything wrong in my entire life. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I mean, if I was, that would kind of like defeat the whole point, right? I mean, if I was, that would kind of contradict what I was saying before, right? The third option is a healthy amount. And to be honest here, I don't think any amount of guilt is genuinely healthy. Like, I mean, remorse for an action in that kind of sense is obviously, but like, guilt, to me, the word guilt particularly implies like a lack of closure emotionally, which I mean, for any given event, you should either right your wrongs or like just find a way to process the events. I don't think holding on to guilt is ever really like a good idea. And the last option here is I have been carrying this guilt with me for a very long time. Is there somewhere I can put it down? And taking this literally, I guess you could like go to the psychiatrists or something similar. I mean, these last three all kind of tie in together, and they all to me point to not having any guilt. And I guess you could say the first option also captures that idea. But here on this channel, we support self-love by narcissism, and so I gotta go with a prouder option. The fifth question is thoughts on cannibalism, and the first two options are yes and no, which I mean, I guess you gotta interpret this as asking if you've ever had thoughts on cannibalism, which I certainly have. You know, I have thought about cannibalism like as a concept before. I have thought about cannibalism like as a concept before. We have this third option, which says, like, if the alternative was death, then sure, otherwise no. Which, I mean, you're going to die whether or not you cannibalize someone. It only really changes how long. And, I mean, it also changes whether or not you'll live the rest of your life as a cannibal. Fortunately for me, though, I've already crossed that threshold, so I don't have anything to lose. I think my choice should be pretty clear in this question. Question 6 is, does anyone love you? The first option is my friends do, which I don't think they mean love in that sense of like friend love. I think they mean like romantic love, unless they do, in which case it's kind of weird how you're just like leading your friends on. Maybe it's not. I don't know much about that kind of relationship. But the second option is my opinion is the only one that matters actually, which I think maybe is like a kind of healthy way of, in the same manner as the previous question, like a healthy way of processing that kind of emotion. And I mean, the third option is no, but I have made peace with that, which I think is a similar kind of answer, but with the difference of the second one having more focus on like narcissism, whereas the third one comes from like emotional maturity, which on this question we're promoting narcissism over emotional maturity, so there's that. The third option is my family tells me they do. They have funny ways of showing it, which I mean, my family shows it by yelling downstairs when I'm trying to make videos, which I mean, don't worry, they're just old and deaf. You know how it is. We're all going to be old and deaf and cannibals apparently. The second last option is do they, with a bunch of question marks. And I appreciate how non-committal this is, like how aggressively non-committal this is. It has very much like, what are you, a cop kind of vibes. And the last option is my lover does. I fear they wouldn't if they knew more about me. No, I obviously don't have a lover. You can probably tell by like the nature of my channel. but I always found the term itself really like weird and gross. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about me, but like I've seen couples use the term lover for each other, and it's just weird. Like, I guess it's like a very old-fashioned kind of term. I don't know. But I mean, as before, you know, we kind of want to look for through lines with these quizzes. And I guess that our through line for this particular quiz is going to be self-love by narcissism. So we got to go with one of the two mental health choices, and we're going to go with the worst one, of course. And question 7 is, how often do you transgress the boundaries that govern the world you live in? Which is a very ridiculous question. I don't even know what that really means in terms of like the real world. Like, I guess it would make sense as a question if you're like living in a cartoon, but if I'm living in a cartoon, it's not a very good one. I'll just say that much. So our first option is, I live by a specific set of rules, which I try my best to remain loyal to, regardless of what others think. Which, I mean, I think is kind of like a very generic blanket statement. I don't think very many people would answer like the opposite, like, I have a set of rules which I break regularly, I'm very unloyal, and I care entirely what other people think. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna say that as a response to a question like this. Our second option is, I try very hard not to. And I mean, these kind of options, this question as a whole, would be a lot easier to answer. With the whole phrasing like transgress the boundaries of the world didn't sound like corporate slang, like one of those ads for when they add like Wi-Fi to a toilet or something, you know? Quantum leap in innovation, transgressing the boundaries, like it doesn't mean anything. Our third option is frequently and extremely well. So like, if they mean by like ethics code, which the first option was kind of implying, is this just like you're a bad person? Is that what this choice is? And the fourth option is, I live outside them, which I mean is kind of just the same as the previous choice. There's really not a whole lot of like identifying features often to differentiate these different choices. The next choice is, I probably would more often if I got out more, which like implies that transgressing the boundaries is something you do outside. Like, is that referring to like physical phenomena then or something? Like, if I could fly when I go outside, I would like, the only requirement was being physically active, I would be physically active. I didn't have a better way to finish that sentence than that, but like what is this question, man? The second last option is, I live in the delicious gray area that keeps me safe, but that guarantees I am not bored. The term delicious here sets a tone that I am very uncomfortable with. Delicious, I find, usually refers either to food or like sexual content in a very creepy way, and neither one really sounds good in this context. And your last option is, not often, but I've committed a few acts of transgression which haunt me. Which, if by transgression they mean mediocre YouTube videos, then this would count. You know, you gotta go the classic YouTube sinner route, I guess. You know, it's a very common kind of joke for YouTubers to make, I guess. Question 8 is, pick the title of a non-existent playlist. The first option is, do you have to let it linger? I don't know what that even means. I mean, the obvious joke is like farts. I mean, that's always like the safe joke to make in any circumstance, right? You know, airport, funeral, wedding, just make a fart joke. But like, I don't know how else to interpret this. It could be like emotions, I guess. That sounds kind of cringe though. The second option is jaunty late medieval tombs disco edition, which I mean obviously is like a joke about like how anachronistic that would be. But given how like puritanical and regressive I at least understand medieval times to be, I think like peasants would kill anyone associated with disco on sight. Like, given how like homophobic even like disco Disco Demolition Day was. I don't like the sounds of that. Third option is songs that feel like rinsing your brain under cold water, which to me, to people like me, that's like weird experimental stuff that like freshens up your brain, which is actually a lot of what I do listen to thanks to my rapidly deteriorating mental state. The fourth option is Red Army Choir deep cuts, which I researched this on Rich Music for like preparation, and people were kind of being weird about their stuff, but the people on Rich Music are weird about every album, so that doesn't really tell you a whole lot, I guess. But I mean, this is a real thing, which I guess kind of goes against the spirit of the question. The fifth option is bagpipe blues, which I don't think would work very well. Blues are supposed to be kind of like sad, I guess, in a certain way, the kind of music that you typically associate with blues, and bagpipes make me think of like anger in a few different ways, so I don't think that would quite match up. Second last option is songs that I was into before they got popular. The good old Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. This might date the video in a way, but I'm recording this when Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush got hit number 1 from Stranger Things. And there's a very natural instinct to be like, they're not real Kate Bush fans or whatever, but that's cringe. It's a good song. Let people enjoy things. That whole attitude's just not good, I think. The last option here is whale song samples, which the term samples here is rather confusing. Are they like whale songs cut down? Or are they like other kinds of songs that use whale songs as samples? I don't get it, but it doesn't really matter because none of those options sounds good. I gotta go with what I actually listen to, I guess, which is rinsing your brain. I could use a good brainwashing. It doesn't really even make sense as a pun, but whatever. Question 9 is you will betray the one you love. How? The first option is I chose duty, honor, and position over them, which I think the key term here is position, I don't like having duties, and I don't have any honor as a person. I'm not Zuko here, but I do love having power over others. Position is a good, feeling, I guess. The second option is, probably slit their throat and cook them into a delicious broth. And, my cousin did this to someone, and they, fed us the soup. I don't know how good of a guy he was, but it couldn't have been that good based on how he tasted, so I can't see myself doing this kind of thing with anyone, based on the whole fact that it's someone you love, Third option was I was a coward, which in real life would probably be the most realistic for me, but I don't really want them to know that. The people at doing the quiz, little gremlin critters who write down your responses and calculate what your result is. I want them to think good of me. Fourth option is I betray them the day we met, and one day they will find out. Our entire relationship is based on a lie. This is meant to be super dramatic, but isn't this just the basis of every rom-com? At least of what I've seen, that's the kind of the stereotypical plot. And that's not the kind of world I want to live in. No offense to anyone who likes that kind of stuff, but it's not for me. The third last option is I changed, they did not. Which, depending on how you change, it shouldn't really be a betrayal unless you're just changing into a bad person, in which case it's your fault. But second last option is I promised to return to them as soon as my quest was done, but then another came up, and then another, and so on. Which I'm kind of like that, except instead of doing quests, I just waste my life. The very last option is I started loving someone else, but that does not mean I have stopped loving them, which I think is pretty unrealistic. Loving two people sounds too hard for me to do. I'm not good at that sort of thing. And once again, we gotta think about our through line, our theme for the the episode, our theme for the video, which I guess is mental health. And to me, getting good mental health is having power over other people. So we're going to be going for position here. And our last question, a yes or no question, is do you know how this story ends? And as I have said before, I think that I said this at the start of the video, I started scripting these, so I do know how this ends. And let's see our result. And we get the monstrous bride with a very pretty picture of a bird. I know that's some mythological critter, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Right up here is, just as the ultimate goal of Arthurian quest finally defines itself as the Holy Grail, the object that can never be assimilated into the real world, so the ultimate woman of romance is a fairy mistress or fairy queen, Helen Cooper. The monstrous bride is not necessarily monstrous, but she is, by definition, inhuman, which is part of her je ne sais quoi. Her happiness often depends on whether her groom knows her inhuman. If he does not, he is bound to find out. If he does not, he is bound to find out before the story concludes, at which point he will either be repulsed by his wife's deceit and leave her, or attempt to make this relationship work but fail because he's operating under a misinterpretation of her nature. If he is aware of her inhuman identity, it will often be one of the factors leading to his attraction to her, and he will be rewarded with her love, but often at the cost of abandoning his previous life completely. And I gotta say, I like how how full and rich the analysis of the archetype you get is, but I don't know how well this relates to me. I don't really see myself as a bride, especially not one who's going to require their partner to either abandon their previous life for the relationship or abandon me. That sounds like a very unfair ultimatum, but I mean, we got the third lowest option, a bit below the median. I mean, it would probably be better than the scrappy hero or the wicked witch too. And as always, we're going to give it a 5-star rating. Very well done, quiz. Yeah, hopefully I can start putting these out more regularly. I want to try, I have a couple other ideas for videos too. I think these uquiz videos are the best on my channel that I do, and so I want to try putting out more of them more regularly, and I mean ideally higher quality, but so hopefully that should be, you should start seeing more of these in the future. And I have some other ideas for maybe more accessible videos as well. Funnily enough, I'm a bit worried about drawing in viewers before I feel like my channel is operating at a high enough quality, so I'm considering holding off longer on those. I'm really just rambling at this point. The meat of the video is over. Thank you for watching. I always do bad outros, and I don't know why.